Our republic is being restored. We the people must learn to stay free. How do we govern ourselves? We must learn the ancient ways. Come along on this journey of the Hidalgo show and learn how to be free. Welcome to Season 3. Hello everybody, this is Rick, and today we're here with Episode 3. We've gone from foundations to deep dive, and today we're going to talk about the start. As you have already found out, there are some very simple principles when you're talking about governing yourself. And within those simple principles, they're all founded on what our ancient forefathers established. Last week we talked about the episode with Jacob and Esau. We talked about the cave fiasco, where after the death of Jacob, there was a controversy over who actually owned the cave and how they resolved that controversy. We also talked about how ancient Egypt itself had been consumed by a system that was just completely against the common law, let's call it. Okay, it was against the common law. The common law meaning that which is common among all men. Okay, they schemed and conspired to basically unlawfully and even illegally destroy an entire nation of people. And all of it could have been avoided had everyone, the 12 tribes of Israel, taken the same route as the tribe of Levi. Now, interesting that it's the tribe of Levi that was able to stay themselves from this situation. Interesting how that works. It kind of corresponds with our First Amendment. Kind of corresponds with the Magna Carta. Kind of corresponds with every set of man's laws all across the span of time. How the religious rights have always been left alone. Have always been perceived to be beyond the ability to reach by civil law, by any other form of law. And the foundations of our ability to self-govern came from our ancient fathers, who laid down those principles, and they continue today. And we're going to talk about the beginning, okay, and the start. I want you to think about something. When Joshua was challenged biblically as to who he was going to serve, he said, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Notice a couple things in that statement. Number one, he was choosing what law form he was going to abide by. He was going to serve the Lord. And as the Lord's servant, he had, as the Lord's bondservant, he would have actually a very light load, because his ways are light compared to the ways of the world, which are heavy, very legal, have many times no recourse. Okay? So that's the first thing I want you to take from that Bible verse. The next thing I want you to take from that Bible verse, let's read it again. "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Notice that he used a representative tone. He said, "As for me and my house." So he was taking a representative capacity over his house. His house would have been all those who were under him, whether they were servants, whether they were children, whether they were the children of servants, whether they were his livestock. It doesn't matter really what it was. All that which today we call an estate, which is actually a legal term, we don't use that term because it's been really bastardized, if you will. So we're talking about a house. House is all that property, chattel, that actually is controlled by the representative of the house, or the master of the house. Another way you might say it, in ancient Rome they call him the paterfamilias. So the representative of the house is the one who actually is what you would say the governor. Okay, today we're governed by consent, right? That's our system. This Republican form of government. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, that's what it is. We're governed by consent. When we consent to something, that becomes part of the governing structure. So what you consent to is important. So you, as the governor of your house, have a task to ensure that your house is properly administrated. That's another word that's used today for organizations or organisms. They call it an administrative capacity. Somebody who has the capacity to be able to control the happenings or the acts of a house, the acts of an organization. So what you're doing is you're creating, in a sense, an organization, but it's more like an organism because it's live. It's not an organism dead. An organization dead. It's an organism live. Okay? And this live thing has varying capacities. And that's where you have to be careful, is in accordance with what capacity you're operating, that's the law that you're serving. If you, in your house or in your ministry, the ministry of your house, begin to act in the capacity of a U.S. citizen, guess what? You'll be obligated to perform those things that a U.S. citizen has to perform. So you have to be very careful, and you have to take meticulous record, and that's why what we're meeting here today, having this discussion, is because I'm trying to encourage you to take meticulous record. So the first step to self-governance, after you've realized that you have the right to self-determine what capacity that you're going to operate in, and that nobody can tell you what that capacity is, you have to make that free will choice. Okay? Now, once you determine that, you have to make a proclamation of that. You have to make a declaration. You operate your capacity by declaration. That's what you do. Okay? You could do that in the form of an agreement that's written on paper that you sign and have witness. Because in this system, in order for this system to recognize something, you have to do things a certain way for them to be recognized by the system. And we want things to be recognized by their system. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we are also acting in a private capacity so that the system leaves us alone. So the first thing you want to do is get yourself a record book. I showed you mine the other day. I'll grab it here real quick. This is my record book. 300 and something pages. And this record book has, in my case, it has a title section here, right? I don't have very much in this one right now. See, I'm still transferring a lot of records. I used to keep things in a box, a record box, rather than a record book. And so I'm making a lot of transfers, and I'm not going to transfer everything from that box over to my book. Some of it's going to stay in that box. But many things that I consider very important and strategic to governing the acts of my house do actually go into this book. Now, I mentioned that you're going to want to make sure that everything that you do can be seen. I'm not saying must be seen. I'm saying can be seen. And here's the difference, okay? A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll take records and they'll go down to their county courthouse and they'll try to file those things, or try to record those things down at the at the county courthouse, or the county records, okay? And a lot of times they'll run into major obstacles, because they don't want to do that. They've got to ask the attorney who's responsible for the records whether they would allow it or not, so on and so forth. And rather than go through that kind of a hassle, a much simpler way, and actually a much more private way, is to write your records down in the form of an agreement, an affidavit, a declaration, a proclamation. I don't care what you call it, okay? And sign it, or excuse me, I'd rather say autograph it, because if you go look up the meaning of the word signature, it's, you could actually replicate a signature. You cannot replicate an autograph. It's original every time. So once you've applied your autograph to the document that you've worked on, now you take that autographed document that you've autographed in front of a public notary. Okay, somebody who's actually registered to do public notary work. And then you take that document and you send it up to the Secretary of State's office and you do an apostille. And what happens is that record becomes public, yet no one really can look it up. It's just that now it's a public record. It's acknowledged as being public because you have published it with the Secretary of State. He's a publisher. Okay, because there's many ways that people have done this over time. People have published it in newspapers, and I think that's way not private. I think that's way too public for me. I would never do it that way. I would definitely not put it in a newspaper, because I'd be spilling all my business out. But here's the nice thing about doing it the way that I'm advocating. If you take your declaration, your proclamation of your house, your proclamation of your capacity, your declaration, whatever you want to call it, and you apostille it, you go through the apostille process. It actually doesn't matter what your document says. You could actually redact the entire document. I just did that. I just basically redacted 3/4 of the document. There was very little on that document that could be read. Okay? Because what they're looking for is the notary. That's what they're validating with the apostille process. They're validating that it was authentically witnessed by someone who has capacity to witness, and it was authentically signed, autographed by you. Okay, they give it a public record number because they photocopy it and put it in the database. Okay, it's given a public record number. It's your publisher number is what it is. And then it's also given their seal. And their seal is what creates the capacity to where it can be seen by those who would need to judge a particular matter. So if you ever got pulled into their courts, if you ever got pulled into any of that mess, you would not have a problem presenting evidence, because today they play this game of, oh, there's no evidence, there's no evidence, there's no evidence. I mean, there's a recent activity that happened in November on a national scale that people keep saying that there's no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. Well, one of the reasons why there's no evidence is because the proper form of evidence has not been presented. I mean, you have to present it in a proper form for this world to see it. So it's just a mess. It's a mess, the world that we live in. So that's why we have these talks. Okay? Now, that's what I'm talking to you about right now is just from an individual place. You put down your will. Your will is your declaration. Your will is your proclamation. Okay? You put down your will, how you will to live each day, how you will to act, how you will, right? And then you redact as much of that as you want, autograph it in front of a notary, send it up, get it apostilled. When it comes back, you have an ironclad published document, and your original document is in here with your autograph on it. And another little piece, really, when you're governing yourself, you're governing yourself in trust. You're governing yourself under your own will, under the trust that you have established for yourself. It's a form of a trust. It's not a legal trust. It's not any kind of trust that the world would understand, but it's a form of a trust. So therefore, when I autograph a document, I put in small letters behind my name, UTA, under trust agreement, because I'm letting them know with those three simple letters, UTA, that I have a capacity that's different than what they might presume. Most people who do not use UTA are presumed to be operating in a particular capacity depending on what the norm is. If it's normal for a business to to handle U.S. citizens, then that's the capacity they're going to promote. They're going to presume. If you have a restaurant in Canada, they're not going to presume you're operating in the capacity of a U.S. citizen. They're going to presume that you're operating in the capacity of a Canadian citizen, right? It's just common sense. So, in order to overcome that presumption in a hurry, using this sweet little letters UTA at the end of your autograph, at the end of your name, actually kind of self-represent yourself. Probably kind of self. It just self-inflicts this concept that you are operating under some different law form, under trust agreement, because you've agreed to some other form of trust, whether it's trust in God, whether it's trust in yourself, whether it's trust in, frankly, Lucifer. You can form a trust to anything. Some people trust, the Bible says, some men trust in horses and some men trust in chariots, but I will trust in the name of the Lord, right? So you can trust in horses, you can trust in chariots, you can trust in the Lord. These are choices. You can do that, all right? You could trust in man-made things, you can trust in God-made things, or you could just trust in God who made it all, okay? So it's a very, very simple concept, but one that we have completely abandoned as a society. Nobody does this. Nobody. I have talked to a lot of people about how they manage their life, and they go along literally allowing the world to presume that they're operating in a U.S. citizen capacity. And in fact, when they fill out documents, let's say to get a driver's license, or say to get social security number, or whatever it is, they actually will represent themselves as a U.S. citizen, thinking, I just need the number, or I just need a card. I just need the driver's license because I need to be able to drive. Without ever really understanding what it is that they're actually representing, what they're actually representing themselves as, and the obligation that that thing carries. Okay? You have the right of self-determination. If there is a form that they give you to fill out, and you don't see an option on there that represents your capacity, then what you do is you attach an affidavit to that application explaining your capacity and why you chose one of their boxes. Because frankly, they don't like it when you make up a box, but you have to explain your capacity. So if you choose to check the box that says U.S. citizen, you can do that, but you better explain what you mean by it, okay? Or they're going to see it how they've defined it. And I can tell you, a U.S. citizen, by their definition, you really don't want to be that, okay? Because it carries a lot of obligation. All right, so these are the things that are really, really important for you to understand, and I want you to live a successful, amazing life of service to the capacity that you represent. And if you, like me, represent your capacity under the Lord, under Yahushua HaMashiach, if that is who you've chosen to serve, Jesus Christ, well, then, we are brothers indeed. And, what the things that you're learning here are very easily established. Now, once you start getting into a family, first, a marriage, matrimony is an agreement. It's a covenant. It's something that the two of you are becoming one. And in your oneness, you're deciding to govern yourself in a certain path, in a certain way. So those things need to be represented in this record book. In fact, the very first thing in this record book is a correction of the matrimonial record. In front of a union of people that I'm associated with, ecclesia, Christian people, renewed and frankly changed my vows to reflect the proper capacity that I operate in, the proper capacity that she operates in, and that we as one are. And that the state is not involved in our matrimonial agreement, and they never have been and never will be. It was a mistake to involve the state. So we basically, explained in that matrimonial agreement that the state is no longer welcome in our matrimony, because it was never to be. So that's the very first record. And I can tell you, I have lots of autographs, lots of witnesses on that piece of paper. And I very well may take a document that is similar to what I wrote there, probably word for word, and I will have it apostilled as a published record of the difference between what we were and what we are now. So we are not going to allow anymore this world to play tricks on us and to play around with our self-governance. We're not going to give them the time of day. We are going to interact with this world, utilizing the capacity that we have been redeemed to operate in. The Bible says that we are new creations in Christ. New creations. And that as a new creation, the old is gone and that the new has come. Now, a new creature, all right, doesn't represent the old. A new creature is a new creature, totally different than the old creature, and acts differently, right? So these are principles that I'm bringing forth because we're still kind of in the principle, the first steps here, all right, of self-governing, because there's a lot to come. We're going to talk about a lot of things, and some things that I'm actually still going through today. But we established a council. My oldest son and I started the council. He is my heir. I am the administrator, and together we run this house. And this house, underneath this house is a ministry, and underneath that ministry are many ministries. Okay, you'll hear us refer to ourselves as the Hidalgo Family Ministry. The Hidalgo Family Ministry is our ministry. It is what we established, declared, proclaimed to be, in fact, ordained of God to operate. Okay? And underneath that, there are many things. My wife is an herbalist. So we have an herbal ministry. I also own a professional wrestling ring. I am a wrestling promoter of Christian wrestling. And that's a ministry that I have under the Hidalgo Family Ministries. There are many, many elements to this. And there are others, my kids, as they are developing what they want to be, what they want to do with their life, we are establishing ministries for them as well, because they're going to operate their life through this ministry. Okay? Are there benefits to that in the world? Yes, absolutely. Okay? Because there are less obligations. And by obligations, I'm going to leave it there. You can think about that. You can go look up the word obligation, and you can find out for yourself what I'm talking about. Because I'm not going to air that out here and have anybody presume that I'm anything. All right? I am who I am, and I do what I do. And I'm here to help as many people as are willing to listen. If you have eyes to hear and eyes to see, wow, eyes to see and ears to hear, here I am to help you to understand some very simple principles that you can apply in your own life. And we're probably going to get into your particular situation, because I'm married with a family, operating ministries, operating a lot of different things. And actually, you can do it. Okay? Even banking is possible. All right? I have successfully been able to be part of a banking situation with one of the ministries that I know has been established. So there are many, many, many benefits to this. But most of all, the biggest benefit is the lack of confusion. There's never confusion as to what we are about at our house. There's never confusion. And our kids know everything that we do for the sake of the blood of Jesus Christ. The kids know that. It's actually the slogan that we use in our professional wrestling ministry. We wrestle for the blood. Okay? So, I think that's enough for today. We're going to stop there. You may want to rewatch this a couple times and let that sink in, everything that I told you. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. The email is below, and I will get back with you as soon as I can. I don't always get a chance to check my email, but I'd say within maybe 72 hours, I should be able to hit you back. And I should be able to have a conversation with you if necessary. Again, thank you for watching the Hidalgo show, and God bless you, and I hope that the Lord blesses you and keeps you and makes you into a great and mighty house. God bless you. Goodbye. Our republic is being restored. We the people must learn to stay free. How do we govern ourselves? We must learn the ancient ways. Come along on this journey of the Hidalgo show and learn how to be free. Welcome to Season 3.